Welcome to the Washdown podcast, episode 158, with special guest Billy Clark. Billy was in the fire service for over 20 years, combined with some time as an Air Force firefighter. And he has been on the podcast before, comes back to talk about his recent retirement. What went into that. And yeah, we had a great conversation. Hope you guys enjoy it. So here you go, episode 158 with Billy Clark.
All crews stand by for emergency traffic. All crews stand by for emergency traffic.
Advance the unit with the Mayday. Go ahead with your traffic.
Ran over to Kansas City and come kick my ass.
Nice.
He retired Army and told me that.
I think we may need to either turn you up or let's see. He's number 3.
You want me to raise it up?
No, let's see. Did number 3 get pulled down or pulled back from the last episode? A little bit. So just keep talking.
All right. Yeah. He retired Army and told me if there was any branch to join, I should join the Air Force.
Can you push him up a little more?
How's that?
I don't know. We'll find out.
There you go. That's better. So yeah, just keep an eye on the bar whenever he's talking, and if you need to pull it back a little bit, if we went a little bit too far. So who did we have last? That was it. Ray? No, it wasn't Ray.
Damn, that's loud.
Yeah.
Wow, that's weird.
Yeah.
All right.
Now I know why I got pulled down, because people can't keep their hands to themselves.
Oh, it was you over there.
Over there?
Yeah, that was the last episode we shot. Was me, you, and James.
Okay.
So you were sitting over there.
Guess I was loud that day. Was I,
My voice
was
doesn't
I yelling?
carry very well.
I think you were going on and on about.
Oh, it was the education stuff.
Yeah,
Did they like turn your volume all the way down without you knowing? You just kept going.
No, he was.
No, I was getting fired up.
So when Chris gets on his soapbox about stuff like, education in the fire service or like community service of community outreach or whatever, he gets really passionate and his voice, the volume goes up.
Yeah,
He
that
doesn't.
tracks.
Like
Yeah.
I'm not yelling, but I'm talking in a loud, authoritative manner.
I get that. Yeah. Those also are two things that are mostly a joke in the fire service, sadly.
Yeah, I know. I'm working on it.
I'm done. You keep going, please.
Yeah. Well, Billy, thanks for coming back to the show, and let's talk about that.
My pleasure. I'm glad to be back. I don't know. What do you want to know?
Well,
Where I'm at now?
yeah, where you're at now, what led up to it, and
Oh, God. I am now medically retired from the fire service as of February 1st due to PTSD. What led up to it? 20 years in the fire service.
I mean, that's a given.
Yeah, yeah. Man.
Hands on the table, Billy.
I wasn't, it's the arm that keeps touching it. It's not me. It's the arm.
Slide to your left a little bit.
little
Yeah,
bit, all right.
electric slide.
All right, there we go. Yeah, what led up to it directly? I started having panic attacks consistently on shift, every shift, for about a year and a half. And mostly, I was having them at the station. It started out, I was having them only at the station. So I could go in my room, do all of my mindfulness stuff, do my breathing, be aware that I was actually having a panic attack and not like fucking dying, because it feels like you are almost every time.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just talk my way out of it, talk myself out of it, and go about the rest of my day like nothing happened. Or pretend that nothing happened, because, yeah.
Did you talk to your crew about that? Do they know at all?
No. At the time, didn't feel like a safe place to do that, so I didn't.
Understood.
Yeah.
And this was after you came on the podcast the last time?
That's been a while, but I can't remember exactly how long. I don't know. I was on episode somewhere around 80. I know that.
Yeah, so that's been, well, I don't know. I'd have to look and see exactly when that was, but
Probably close to around the same time.
same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a weird thing, and then finally I started having them more consistently on calls, and just having to like fucking deal with it and contain it as best I could. And then decided that I should probably do something about it.
And it only took a year for that?
Year and a half. Year and a half, honestly, year and a half until so with the department I was with, we're through Mo Loggers. So the retirement process was I had to get a psychiatrist to fill out a form saying that I had a work comp injury of PTSD. And the whole process is super fun because they treat all of it like it's physical injury. Like they have nothing like in any paperwork anywhere for like any mental injuries at all.
Well, I mean,
So, like, what date did you get hurt? Can you describe your injury? How can you avoid it?
Hire date. That's right. All right. Hire
Yeah,
date. Yeah.
don't fuck up the hire date because then nothing will be admitted at all. But like it was all the paperwork was all geared towards physical impairments or physical injuries and no mental injuries whatsoever. So it's like it's like, what day did this happen? It's like it was cumulative. How the fuck do I pinpoint that? How do I narrow that down? How do you avoid how to avoid this in the future? And I was like, actually, there are some ways, we just ignore them. But yeah, I had to do that, submit that, and then submit paperwork to loggers. Then I had to get notes from every clinician I've seen, like their therapy notes, which they do not like to let go of at all.
No.
So I had to get a hold of, I think 7 different providers, because I went back to an EAP provider that I'd had like a decade ago, and he actually still had everything, all my paperwork, all my filing stuff, and he didn't have to. It's been 10 years.
Yeah. I think 7 years is all they have to.
I think 5.
Well, yeah.
Maybe 5.
If only there was an expert you could ask, Jeremy.
Possibly. She might not. She might.
She might. I don't know.
She might.
I don't know if she's very good at her job or not.
I can say yes. Yes.
I mean, from things I hear, she's excellent.
Yeah, everything I've heard has been great.
Honestly, yeah.
And just talking to her, here at the house or whatever, very knowledgeable.
You're
Nobody
Yeah.
wants to look at me.
change the bro.
Hi guys.
What's the point of having 3 cameras going if it just stays on one person? We're so professional here at the Washdown podcast.
What do you expect? Seriously.
It's a firefighter's kitchen table. It's fucking
Yeah.
perfect.
You're lucky we got pants on. Let's be honest here.
You have pants on?
No.
Okay, see?
Can't see my pants.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
And then after I got the notes, everything turned in, I had to write. They give you 1 page to describe your injury and how it was caused by your work. I filled out that 1 page, and then I wrote, I guess, 23 addendums to that one. So I wrote 23 more pages, and I wrote in detail like some of the worst shit I've probably like top 10 worst things I've run or incidents I've had at work, not just calls, but just period.
Yeah.
So I sat down for a while, and this whole time I'm on FMLA. So I'm already off, and I'm spending my days writing down the worst shit in detail that I've seen, recalling it to the best of my ability. And submit that, and then you just wait. They're like, it'll be 5 weeks. It took them 3.5 weeks. They're like, yeah, you're fucked up. Let's get you out of here.
Jesus.
Like, let's get you out of here.
So you had to use your own time that entire time you were off.
Yeah. And I ended up taking, I think, close to 1,000 hours of PTO in my last year.
Did you get that back after the retirement, or is that still a fight process?
All of that stuff is pending. I have to try to get that back. As of right now, it's like, well, thank you for your time. And because I had to wait a total of 5 weeks from the time I requested my therapy notes to get all of them to submit them. So there was that 5 weeks, which ideally wouldn't take 5 weeks for that to happen. And me to continue to be like, hey, I need this shit. Like, my entire life is kind of depending on it right now. So when I had to wait 5 weeks for all that, and then it was supposed to be 5 more weeks. So the total process was about 2 months from start to finish. It's pretty streamlined, but it's also pretty surprising.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked to other people that have had that same, not necessarily the same thing, but the PTSD retirement and the horror stories of it, how long it is dragging on. Because nationwide, it's a new thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of, places don't have a process for it. So everything is like, well, how do we navigate this? And some places are just like, well, we're going to just drag our feet as long as possible. And then maybe you'll just go away and just quit.
Since I have medically retired, I've had people reach out to me, and I've had some that have had that exact same, like that verbatim. Like, I tried to start the process. I had no guidance. I had no idea what to do. And finally I just gave up and I left, and I went somewhere else slower.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I want to bring something up, and maybe we can talk about this or not. I was on Instagram the other day, and the guy had a post about this new, they want to implement a 24/72. So 24 on, 72 off.
Yeah.
Right. And so we kind of got in a little bit of a discussion on Instagram, and I get it. I get the idea behind it and the science behind it of, having more time to have your circadian rhythm reset and all of that stuff, right? In theory, it's really fucking great and would probably help with all this stuff. But in reality, the issue is almost all fire departments right now are short-staffed as it is. Yep. So you have to hire a whole nother shift. Then, well, is that municipality going to continue to pay you the overall money that you make? Or are they just going to continue to pay you your hourly wage, which means now you're going to be making considerably less?
Oh, absolutely. How much is that going to cut your hours?
Yeah. Well, it'll cut it from
about a third, wouldn't it?
If you give
roughly,
if you give a municipality, maybe not a fire protection district, maybe, but a municipality, if you give them the option of you guys can pay them, we're going to add another entire shift. So we're going to grow this entire department by this much. You're going to pay them this much because this is what their salary was. So you have to pay these new people this exact same amount of money. Do we want to increase your budget by that much, or let's just pay them hourly? That way we just keep everything the exact same for us.
Well, but then you go to, we can't even staff what we have.
How do you hire another shift?
Yeah, how do you hire a whole nother shift?
Just close down stations. Public's perfectly fine with that. I've had a chief that did that as a fix before, and it did not come back and bite her in the ass at all.
Yeah, that always works out well when you shut down fire stations and police stations and
cut
officers and firefighters and medics, EMTs.
Did you see what Pittsburgh just went to?
Uh-uh.
So they don't have cops between 3 a.m. and 7 a.m.
Oh, I did. I read that about a month or two ago.
It just no cops. We are not staffed. We are not responding to calls. Yeah.
There's been a lot of departments that have cut what types of calls they run and respond to. Mm-hmm. If it's nonviolent or there's no threat.
I mean, they do that anyway.
Yeah, but not now it's
official,
and there's policies and procedures for it. It's not you move down the list. And we're not coming at all.
Yeah, and it's the nonviolent or whatever, or there's no actual threat or whatever. That includes burglary alarms. So if you have let's say, what's the ADT or whatever, and somebody breaks into your house and ADT alerts, they're in your house, fucking home invading you. They ain't fucking coming.
The good news is, dispatch, for their job of communication, doesn't always communicate well. So PD might not go, but those alarms usually come in. A burglary alarm usually comes in, both tripped at once, so it contacts PD and fire. At least in my experience.
So did you know in some cities, if you don't let the city know that you have an alarm as a homeowner, and it goes off, and that company calls that 911 dispatch, they won't respond because you're not in the system?
Seriously?
I 100% believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know a certain city that does that.
Yeah. Also know a certain city that will dispatch you to the same fucking car wreck 3 times in a row in an hour and a half with the cops sitting there looking at you like, why are you back?
I just wanted to bring you coffee, dude.
Yeah.
I saw you were tired.
That sounds familiar. Sounds very familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That may or may not have happened recently.
But we can't get anyone to do any of these jobs anymore.
No.
Like
It's
post COVID, we can't
Yeah.
get anyone to do it.
Well, and so
And I don't blame them.
Yeah, well, and the guy that was on Instagram, that was his thing. He just talked about how it was like the culture of the job or whatever, and like the bad working conditions and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, that's part of it. 100%, that is part of it. But the other part of it is we have had a cultural societal shift where being of service and being a public servant and having a retirement and all those things that meant something to us whenever we were first getting started, they don't mean anything now.
It's taboo.
They might mean a little bit, but there's the addition. There's the addition of we also know the cost that we didn't know when we started. It wasn't known, or at least talked about like at all.
Yeah.
So there's like, we want you to do this job that doesn't align with your values. We're not going to pay you very much, and it's going to fuck you up.
Sign me up.
I mean, I understand why it's hard to get people to want to do these jobs.
Yeah.
Pay's the biggest issue that you hear about now.
Yeah.
You start out, especially when you see gas stations or there's, like the people that do the shopping for you at the grocery store.
Yeah.
They make more than a lot of starting fire departments start people at.
Oh, there's
Absolutely.
And it's a fraction of the work. There's no training. All the certifications that you need now as a firefighter, the medical licenses, everything you go through. And this guy's picking up cans of soup, making $25 an hour. I'm not mad at that person. Go make your money. I'm mad at people in charge of these departments in these cities. They're like, what are you doing?
Whenever a high school senior
Wrong person.
Whenever a high school senior makes $1 less than her 3-year firefighter brother working a part-time job,
Yeah.
that's an issue.
100%.
The
an
municipalities
issue.
have to. They're going to have to, if they want people, if they want to have firefighters or cops, they're going to have to adjust their pay to match what's going on in society right now. Period.
Well, nobody saw the record inflation coming the way it came. I mean, we knew it was going to go up because of certain things that were going on.
Yeah.
But at the record level that we've seen,
Well, and as fast as it went up.
fast as it went, it was like overnight. Just nope.
I mean,
no
you
economist saw that.
You saw interest from home prices from the time that I bought my house at 3%, or just over 3%, to less than a year later, it was over 7% for a home loan.
Yeah.
That's,
It's a little drastic.
I mean, maybe, I don't know.
I'm not paying the 7%. I know someone really close to me who, when they bought their house and they had to buy a house, it's 6.5 or 7, and it drastically affects your payment and everything.
Oh, yeah.
You do. So now he's extremely house poor. But that it's not
Because he's paying a shit ton for a house that he had to buy.
it's overpriced anyway.
Yeah, that was already overpriced. So if the housing bubble doesn't have to even burst, it can just like deflate a little bit,
Yeah.
and you're fucked on your house for how long?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah, because you can't get rid of it.
I know we got an email from a realtor the other day. So we were looking. Remember, we were looking for a house a while back. We wanted a little bit of land, and ours went up 80% in value, 90%, something like that.
Damn.
That's what I said. I was like, oh, sell it. But where are we gonna go? I'm gonna get one of those like 8-person tents, and we're just gonna sleep in that.
You already have one of those 8-person tents.
I think you have that tent.
No, you have it.
I ain't got it.
Yeah, because we took that tent to Texas.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to it.
Your brother probably has it then.
Could be at somebody else's house. I think we slept in that and we went floating. So he might have it.
Yeah. So I got another question for you and for you if you want to chime in on this as well, because it's a good question.
Okay. I do have a question for Billy about his
Oh.
panic attacks. I wanted to ask earlier. I didn't get a chance to.
Oh, well, let's do that first before
sure?
we go
I
off.
don't
on,
want to cut you off.
No,
Okay.
before
Yeah,
we
go
go
for
off on another tangent, let's
So
do that.
you're having the panic attacks at the station.
Yeah.
Did you ever pinpoint what was triggering them? Was it the station itself? Was it the guys? Was it talking about things? Was it the bells or your alerting system? Running the calls?
Yes. Everything.
Everything?
It was my cup. I never got a chance to empty it,
Yeah.
so it didn't take much to put me up to that level. I mean, breathing would do it. If I felt like my back was tense and I didn't feel like I could get a deep breath, like that could lead to a fucking panic attack. I don't know what's at the core of most of them. I'm trying to explore that in therapy, but I lost my health care whenever I retired. They didn't offer me retiree health care. So luckily, I can use the VA, but I haven't in so long. And I have so much anxiety around stupid bullshit to the rest of the world, but it's weird to me. Like calling and dealing with someone who's like a gatekeeper, who I have to get past them to get what I need, but getting past them is the part that fucking, I'm just like, I'm just not going to call.
So when we're done, remind me, and I'll give you guys a number to help you navigate the VA.
I would appreciate that. I have been signed up with them before. I found out that, because I actually a buddy of mine said, hey, I'm going. Come with me. I'll make sure you get signed up for all your stuff. Because I used them when I first got out for a little bit. But then it was just a shit show at the time. Like I was a brand new firefighter somewhere on a new department, and the VA is scheduling appointments for me, like on the one of 3 days that I can't go and I can't take off work because I just started. So I'd call them, okay, I need to reschedule, and I'd have to leave a voicemail to do that. And then they would reschedule on a day that I was not working so I could make it. And then that day they'd be like, hey, your appointment's been canceled and rescheduled it for you on a day that you're working. So setting an appointment and finally getting to an appointment 3 months later, I'm like, fuck it, I'm done. I'm not dealing with it.
So it sounds like they've gotten better.
They've
from what he was telling me.
Yeah, from what I've heard, they're a whole lot better.
He's navigated this for many people and helped out a lot. And we'll talk about other stuff. I don't want to get into that kind of stuff here. But yeah, I got somebody for you.
I'm game. Absolutely. I did finally get to them though, and got set up to go see a primary care physician first, and from there I can go see everyone else that I need to see to get everything set up. But
Good.
yeah,
I mean, you got something. That's the important thing.
it only took me 3 months to finally. I had called the day before and I was on hold for like 45 minutes while I was talking to him, and he was like, "Dude, just hang up. Come with me tomorrow."
Yeah.
Cool. I'm in.
Yeah.
And this is a good argument for why we shouldn't have socialized health care in the United States.
I disagree.
Dealing with the VA all these years.
Dealing with the VA, yes. The VA is not a good example of it at all. But the VA also does, kind of like what the Army does. The VA has an approach of, we're going to spend all this money on these buildings and this equipment, but not people to actually facilitate all of this.
Yeah.
It's like they skimp on the in-between.
Yeah. The most important part.
The most important part of actually getting people signed up and going there and fucking getting stuff done. That's where they skimp.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're good.
Yeah.
Get off your phone. Should have your phone out. Ah!
You know, man, it's one of those things where I don't know if you noticed, but I'm kind of an important person. I'm kind of a big deal. I have like one leather-bound book. So,
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, my question.
Yes.
So I saw on Instagram the other day these people were talking about, you know, the increase in like suicide and PTSD and all of that stuff, and how it's more prevalent now than it used to be in the past and all of this stuff, right? And they were talking about kind of their viewpoint was if all we're doing is focusing on it, then it's making it worse. And I don't know if I'm explaining it very well, but do you kind of get what I'm saying of
I see what they're trying to say.
yeah, we're focusing on that issue, but not the growth aspect of it or the getting better from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think if we don't focus, or not necessarily focus, but point out the negative parts of all this shit, that because of poor mental health, people can get suicidal. I don't think you can focus on the growth, because you can't sell the growth without selling the side of it of like, hey, this is the fucked up part. And if we don't focus on the growth, this is what happens. Maybe we do get a little bit, or not we, society as a whole gets hyperfixated on the suicide part of it. I don't disagree that they don't do that, but we have a society like, well, the media and news we're fed is always the negative aspect of like fucking everything. It's like, oh, here's the top 10 ways you're going to die. Here's the top 10 things are going to kill you, blah, blah, blah.
So it's focusing on the problem instead of the solution.
It's focusing on the problem a little bit more than it needs to be, probably, or most likely. But we can't. It's hard to get buy-in on the solution if you don't point out the problem.
Right.
Yeah, you have to go through the weeds before you get to the meadow.
You know, and I get that. I really do. And maybe it's just because, you know, we do this podcast and we're involved in, you know, the mental health aspect of being in a first responder, like we are, right?
Yeah.
So maybe it's more prevalent to us. So the whole awareness thing, like, okay, we're fucking aware. We need to do solutions. Like we need.
Well, when you say we are aware, you're talking about we as in people in the fire service and law enforcement, but the public isn't as aware as what you think.
Right. And I'm not.
In my experience.
So, but here's the thing, like, I'm not necessarily worried about, this is going to sound bad. I'm not worried about the public. Like, it's the administration, the municipalities and all that stuff. All of those people should be aware by now, right?
Yeah, they should be.
Should be?
Yes.
Because, I mean, how many programs do we have that deal with mental health for first responders and veterans? I mean, just in this area, I could like rattle off probably 20 or 30 that's their sole mission. So, like, why do we still have people falling through the cracks? And why are we like...
Well, because, so I'm in a funny spot with this.
Which is why I brought it up.
Yeah.
Different perspective.
For me, I've been to the point where I was suicidal. I've been really close. It's been years at this point. And I chose a path of healing. And not to say that there's no chance that anything will ever happen the rest of my life that's not going to be sending me down some fucking spiral. But I've been seeking help for I've been on my therapeutic journey for probably about 5 years now, I'd say. And in that 5 years, I've really, really worked hard on working on me, making myself better, healthier, all those aspects, more emotionally intelligent. Anything I can do to better myself, and I just fucking dive into it. Going to therapy, going to programs, reading a shit ton. And one of the guys that helped me along my therapeutic journey, one of the people that helped push me to go to a program that fucking helped save my life, committed suicide a year later. Like, he was a guy I worked with on the job. He was a firefighter. Fucking great guy. Also a vet. Had his own demons. And that fucked me up.
Mm-hmm.
He will always be remembered on my department. Always. And he should. I just medically retired due to PTSD. And the minute I said that and said, hey, I don't know if I can do this, I've got a problem. I've maybe heard from 6 people from my whole department. So, do we focus on the negative? Yeah. Do we focus enough on, I'm not saying focus on the people who are doing, who haven't gone down the negative side, or haven't committed suicide. People who have been suicidal and walked away from it. I mean, we kind of just like, oh shit, that's tough. I don't want to deal with that. I'm just going to ignore that and pretend that's not there anymore. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's not exclusive to the PTSD thing,
No.
the mental health thing,
Yeah.
because we saw that with people who, you have people that die, and it's like, oh, all this stuff for them. But then the people that were hurt and couldn't continue, they got pensioned off, they're just kind of pushed to the side.
And then what we do is we basically push it to the side and ignore it and pretend like it didn't happen, because that's the harder part to see, is the people that suffer or struggle and suffer and survive.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, that's a hard road, and I don't want to even think about that, because then I'll imagine myself there, and I need to feel invulnerable. So,
yeah. Well, and that's what it is. There's like this, I don't know if you want to call it like this machismo or like superhero complex or some bullshit like that, oh, if this bothers you, then you weren't cut out for this job anyway. It doesn't matter that you put in 20 fucking years.
at some of the fucking busiest places, and
Yeah.
you ran your ass off, and you're in some crazy ass shit.
Yeah.
It's an immature masculinity is what it is.
Yeah. Well, and I think we've all made that joke at some point about how most of the fire department is 8th grade boys.
Yeah. It's not far off at all. Like, if you get to a point where you can step back and look at it from the outside, especially some stations might attract that more than others. They have this, like, it's a pissing contest where everyone's scared to pull out their dick. They're like, no, I can piss farther. Well, okay, you can piss farther. No, I'm not going to piss in front of you guys. Like, there's nothing back in this at all. I just need to, like, pretend.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I actually don't even know how to pee. I have to sit down to pee, and I'm not going to get in this pissing contest anymore.
God, you're so right. That's a great analogy for that.
It's frustrating. And with the administration side of it, they fucking know. They absolutely know. They have to convince the public. Well, we have to convince the public to force the administrations, and not necessarily in the fire department, but in the cities and the municipalities, force the administrations to actually take this seriously and do something about it. Because, like, as it is now, like, take EMDR, for example. EMDR is one of those things that if you have a traumatic event, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, if you have a traumatic event, you have a 10-day window afterwards to where if you know your people went through some shit, it's okay to acknowledge that, maybe get them help, and if in that 10-day window you get them EMDR, you have I think it's a chance of reducing PTSD symptoms by 80%, in a 10-day window. It's not new information at all, but if you tell that to city administrators who are the bosses of us, or if you tell it fire administrators, they're like, that's amazing. When did this come out? It's like
30 years ago.
Exactly. It's like the general public being like, wait, if you put water on a fire, it goes out? Damn, that's a good idea. That's how stupid like we are about mental health in the first responder world.
I think it's more like with the officers, you just bury your head in the sand so you don't have to deal with it.
Oh,
I mean,
it's
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 I know we
both.
kind of said that already, but
Yeah, no.
Well,
You're not wrong.
Here's the sad fact, though, and we've talked about it multiple times. What we're talking about is being proactive and preventative, right? So we know we're going to run these calls. We know we're going to have these critical incidents. We know there are steps that we could take after to prevent issues or to lessen the likelihood of issues, but it costs a little bit of money
Up
front, which cities don't want to do that.
No.
They would rather shell out $80,000 to send you to an inpatient treatment whenever the fucking wheels fall off than they would be to spend $10,000 on preventative.
but only if you force their hand.
Yeah. Otherwise, your insurance pays for it and you're responsible for it.
Exactly. It's kind of like the VA. If you don't force them to look at it, they won't look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And most vets I know, don't go to the VA. They don't want to deal with it. They just, it's hard enough to deal with. They're like, and I've been guilty of this. It's hard enough to deal with that. I'm just not going to fucking deal with them at all.
Well, because that's the goal of a bureaucracy.
Yeah.
You make it convoluted and difficult to where nothing gets done. And then you don't have to do anything.
And let's take people that have anxiety and PTSD and depression, and then let's make them go through a system that makes them jump through all the hoops that cause them anxiety and depression and worsen everything for them.
So here's the other side of that coin, though. Let's do that. Let's make this shit hard for people to do because we don't want people that are going to fake it.
You're right. So 10% of people that aren't going to do it aren't going to be able to get away with it. But the 90% that aren't faking it still aren't going to fucking do it because you're avoiding that 10%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. It's
fucking frustrating.
It is maddening. And we sit here and we talk about it and we talk about, well, there has been progress made and this, like, I get it. Yes. But we're talking about, like, what's the analogy that you use, Chris, about steering a battleship? Of how you just, like, it's like 1%. You know,
I don't remember.
Move the needle 1%.
1 degree.
1 degree.
Yeah. 1 degree turn.
Yeah. And it takes forever to do that. Then that's kind of where we're at. But I mean, the fact of it is, and the reality is, with these issues, we can't do that. Like, we just can't, because the job and the people are suffering.
We can't, and we have to.
Yeah. Because it's, unfortunately, it's in the hands of bureaucrats.
It kind of is. We're having fucking conversations about it now. We didn't.
The Internationals had a big push on this too. I don't know if you guys know that.
Yeah.
They've had a whole lot of stuff come out, and they're pushing for a lot of stuff. You know, I mean, we've been through the DEI classes, the beginning of them, and it's a big push as well. But so is the mental health. It just seems like it's second tier. You know, it's not in the first lane; it's in the second or third lane.
Well,
at this
that's
point right
where,
now.
you know, priorities. Yeah. Well, that's a whole nother thing, but
Like, and I acknowledge that I'm completely biased in this whole thing. And like fucking 10 years ago, I couldn't have told you anything about EMDR, or I wouldn't have even been willing to talk to you about any of this shit at all. Like, it was off the table. Like, there's no way. Like, but when I started, like, there was no one having conversations about any of this. That wasn't going to happen. That's been fucking 20 years.
yeah.
The general population, 20 years ago, had no problem talking about, hey, you know, mental health is real. Let's just acknowledge that. I mean, that's fucking 40 years ago, to be honest. The fire service, first responders, like, it's been 11 years now, and suicide has been the leading cause of death for firefighters. I think it was in 2013. That was the first year that it surpassed heart disease. I mean, before that, I mean, if you look at like the top 2 things that kill somebody, like how long was suicide number 2 that we didn't even fucking acknowledge it? All of a sudden it's number 1. They're like, oh, that was when the international started their push. Was then it's like, hey, this is killing us. I mean, It's been killing us, but now it's number 1. Yeah.
If you ain't first, you're last.
Clearly.
Oh,
Because I have no idea the statistics, like how long suicide was the number 2 cause, or leading cause, or second leading cause of fire for firefighters.
yeah. Well, not to mention that, but it's one of those things that's underreported. Because, I mean, we've talked about it multiple times. That white paper from 2017, it was like, they said like 350 or whatever were confirmed, but they expected that the number was possibly twice as high because of,
Paperwork errors.
Yeah, paperwork errors.
Probably more than twice.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
Because if
the
you
paper
commit
was like
suicide, your
2 to
family
3.
doesn't get death benefits or this and that. And everybody's trying to like smooth everything over. And we don't have that problem here. And no, he was accidentally cleaning his gun. Yeah. Bullshit.
Yeah. That's my high horse there, is how serious we don't take it.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's part of the reason we started the fucking podcast
Yeah.
is
I'll
try to
be
get
honest,
people to.
I don't think we're going to see that change for another 5 to 10 years. Because guys in our range are starting to come up to where we're at those levels of administration. And I think that's when we're going to start seeing it, but we're still a little ways away from it. You know what I mean? And then it's going to take us time when we get to those positions to make those changes and instill those things and those values. And then the people behind us, when they come up, we're going to see an explosion of it.
I absolutely agree.
That's my opinion.
Well, also generationally, they were way more accepting of so many more things than we are, or we were raised with, or how we were brought up. Like mental health isn't a big deal to them.
No, they talk about it a lot.
And I remember, I think I told you this before. My first call ever ran in my entire career. When I was an Air Force firefighter. It was a fucking SIDS call. First call I ever ran. Slow ass station, didn't do a damn thing all day. Went out to training. I was the Air Force, we trained all the goddamn time. But like ran that call, got back to the station, sat at the table. I'm like, what the fuck did I get myself into? I don't know if I can do this. That hurt, and I don't like the way that felt. Sitting at the kitchen table by myself. 30 minutes later, senior captain comes out and he's like, I just thought I'd just come out and check on you. He's like, you doing okay? I'm like, I don't know, man. That was rough. He's like, it's good that it doesn't feel good. I'm like, he's like, all right, have a good night. I'm like, cool. Pearls of wisdom.
That should have led to a longer conversation.
But that was a lot for someone in his generation.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Give you the pat on the back and say you're going to be all right. And
I didn't even get that. I didn't get that you're going to be all right. It's like,
Yeah.
That's good. All right, later.
Holy shit. Oh. Yeah, I don't know. We've talked about it a couple times of we got the speech whenever we were in the academy of, you don't take your feelings to work. You put them in a box under your bed. Which in their defense, like that's part of compartmentalization, right? Of you have to be able to do the job.
That's step one.
That's
of the
step
entire
one.
process.
There's a lot
more steps after.
I mean, they're trying, maybe. I don't
It's
know.
like, hey, this is how you become a firefighter. This is the whole thing of being a firefighter. Step one, get on the truck. And then they just don't fucking say anything else. Like, I need more information, guys.
Yeah.
no, you figure it out as you go.
Well, that's what we did. I mean, that, in their defense, that is like the core concept of our job. Because every fucking scenario is different, and you just figure it out as you go.
Yeah.
hopefully based on solid fucking training you've had.
Yep.
Yeah, and experience.
Yeah. Well, and that's the
And
thing.
hopefully you're not a fucking idiot doing a job too. It's
Uh,
like you got fucking idiots who are like, based on my experience, I'm going to do this. Like, why the fuck would you do that?
Yeah.
Oh, so you run calls with Jeremy?
Yeah.
Got him.
Good job. Good job, Chris.
That was good.
No, I was going to say to illustrate your point. Yeah, because I recently became the company officer of an actual company instead of a safety officer. And whenever I was talking to the firefighters that I work with, you know, they were kind of like, oh, you know, what do you want for, you know, this or that? You know, I was like, well, they're all going to be different. So we're going to figure it out. And like, I'll try to give you as best of a heads up of what I want, you know, as we're pulling up on the scene, but sometimes we're going to have to pivot and be flexible. So
There's nothing wrong with being able to pivot and be flexible and all of that, but you got to have some sort of a standard to start from.
Yeah, a foundation
You
to
run-
start from before you
Yeah.
can do anything else.
Right, you run a car wreck, so you know you're going to need tools being on a truck, right? You know you might be extricating, so one guy grabs the power tool, you know, the battery operated one.
Yeah.
do you want me to talk about extrication?
And then
Since you're a pumper captain.
so, but then you're also going to grab a Halligan to make a purchase point.
Yeah.
You know, do you have your tool belt with you? Those are little things, and then we can pivot if we need the hydraulic power unit. We can bring that and all of that, or just like on a pumper, we have a car fire. Are we going to use the booster? Are we going to pull a hand line? Or are we going to use the car fire line?
It depends.
Yeah, what do we got? Are we on the highway? Is it a truck? Do we have a hydrant? Are we on the side street? Everything's going to change.
Mm-hmm.
But the standard is, let's pull this first. Where are we going to park? Well, it depends. Do we have another company coming who's going to block traffic? So everything's going to change. But the standard is, this is where we start from. We use the rig to protect us, and we pull from there.
Yes, that's why there are SOPs.
Except for mental health.
Yeah. But some places are getting better.
Are they? Do places actually have SOPs for mental health now?
Yeah. So there are some that have like the critical incident stress debrief model that's being used in a lot of places. If there's a certain type of call, it's automatic. Those places are few and far between.
Yeah.
And they usually, like, whenever you see departments that kind of do that and do it well, they have like a counselor or a therapist that's on staff or an organization that they reach out to consistently to kind of outsource that to. And I think a lot of departments are going that route. And I know specifically police departments are. But they've been doing that for a while now because they had to, because of, you know, having police involved shootings, and you have to have, you know, your checkup before they let you come back to duty. So yeah, in the fire service, we're just lagging way far behind on that.
And the first one I went to was actually our officer involved shooting where the officer was shot. And then they were like, the PD was like, hey, do you guys want to come along since you were in like the fucking thick of all this? And we were like, yeah, that'd be cool. What are we doing? We're talking about things. Okay, cool.
Did you guys wreck the whole fucking thing?
No. So cops had their separate one.
Okay.
All the first responders had a completely separate one.
Okay. It's probably a good idea.
Because it was an involved. So one of the barriers that PD runs into with their mental health stuff is police departments handle it poorly because if there's an officer involved shooting, it's still pending an investigation. So the cops can't talk to anybody else about anything. So you can't have the two together.
Yeah, and there is I think there's a case right now. I don't know if it's here in state or somewhere else about that whole model and it being what's been said in those debriefings being admissible in court. So that
could fuck everything up.
Yeah, and so there's litigation pending right now about that.
Fucking lawyers, man.
Dude, I'm telling you, if
don't
Eagles,
get me started.
The Eagles hell freeze is over. There's a line in I think track 2. It's the more I think about it, old Billy was right. Let's kill all the lawyers. Let's kill them tonight. That's one of the lines in the I'm not advocating that, and I know my name is Billy. That was not me. Not a direct quote.
And you're wearing a Deadpool shirt,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, good point.
Jeremy, edit that out.
Yeah,
later.
it's just
that's going to be
So-
the clip that gets posted. We never do clips, but we're going to do it now for that.
Wait,
just
so,
that
I mean,
one.
think about it. You know how Don Henley was when it came to lawyers.
Yeah.
When he was by himself, dirty laundry.
oh yeah.
Fucking lawyers in the media, man.
Yeah.
You want to fuck up a country or a person? Lawyers in media.
Yeah.
And so I'm 44 years old. That came out in 94, 95.
Yeah, something like that.
And I got that CD when it came out. When I heard that song, I was like, man, that line just sticks in my head for some reason. And I'm like a fucking teenager. So I'm like, that line just sticks in my head. As I'm going through life and like different things are happening, and I'm like something would happen and that line would go through my head. I'm like, oh, fuck, Don Henley was right.
Yeah.
He was a wise man.
Yeah. But to your point about the mental health stuff and administration, I think one of the things I think really needs to happen, and to not reporting, the two things combined, sorry, things not being reported and administration. I think one of the failings we have is we have so many people that get fired from the job or have disciplinary problems and then end up leaving the career. And I think we need to change the way we look at discipline with, hey, this person is clearly acting out. Let's make sure they're okay before we fucking fire them or give them days off so they can go be completely fucking by themselves and downward spiral into whatever the fuck's going on with them. And then they come back to work, still have more problems. Like if there's a pattern, we need to see if people are okay. We're not even checking or asking.
Yeah. And what's funny is that's a big part of, I don't know if it was for your promotional exam, but that's one of the things that most departments, whenever you take a promotional exam, that's part of what they want you to say is, I'm going to check on this person and see what the reason is that they are consistently late to work or consistently don't get their CEUs done or this or whatever the reason is. That is one of the benchmarks that you want to hit, is find out what's going on with them.
One thing to say it during your exam.
I know, but
Another
if they
thing,
want, if these
talk the talk,
departments,
but don't walk the walk.
if these
Yeah.
departments are wanting you, that if that's what they're wanting for you to say to get promoted, then that's what they should be wanting you to do
To actually do.
once you're promoted, and they should give you the ability to fucking do that.
You mean training? Because the thing is, like, you can say, well, I'm going to check on that person and see how they're doing. But the reality of it is, like, if I'm not comfortable talking about my feelings, I'm sure as fuck not going to be comfortable with you talking about yours.
What was it we talked about in the last podcast? Education. Gee, I wonder what we're talking about right fucking now.
Repeatedly.
Don't yell into the mic, Christopher.
But,
Fuck
but
this mic.
real actual education, though.
Yeah.
Not like a bullshit pencil whip class, like, oh, we know we have to
No,
do this and we have to do
bring an
this.
actual certified counselor in who knows their shit.
And when someone starts fucking around in the class, like, do something about it.
Yeah. That's when the knife hands come out.
Yeah.
I do
Well,
that so much, and people have no idea what that is. It just like I do it in the car. Like that's what I do now. Instead of like cussing at somebody, I'll just be driving and someone's being a dipshit. I'm just like,
Yeah. My wife knows when I'm getting mad, the knife hand comes out.
'Cause you, like,
And then
stop
when I
doing
get-
this.
Then when I get really mad, that's when she backs off.
I still think you missed your calling as a drill sergeant.
Now I'm too fat.
I mean, maybe if you would have went in earlier, you wouldn't have gotten as fat as you are.
I wish I would have gone.
I had a few friends that actually did it, and they loved it. Like I don't know hardly anybody who's done that job and not enjoyed it. But they're very careful to pick the people who can actually do the job and not let it like go to their head.
Yeah, because I can definitely see how that would be an issue. I mean, we see it in the fire service of you see
yeah.
those people who get promoted, and it's a running joke of the lighter color your shirt is, the bigger squirrel you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because people start power tripping over that crap.
Yeah.
It's like, well, no, I'm I'm the lieutenant, or I'm the captain, or I'm the chief. So you're going to do what I say.
Because I said, in certain situations, okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to maybe talk about it afterwards.
Yep.
Like, hey, I want to know what your thought process was here.
Yeah.
Like, why we did it this way
But
instead.
that's now you're going back to training again.
Training and education.
Yeah. Because, okay, you saw something that I didn't see. What did you see?
Yeah.
Teach me.
Like,
that way I can see it and I can get better.
And that's why I had the same conversation whenever I was floating and whenever I got to my new spot. I had the same conversation. I was like, look, sometimes I'm going to tell you to do something, and it means right then. Most of the time, I'm not going to tell you to do stuff. We're going to train. I'm going to trust you to do your job.
Yeah.
But if I tell you to do something,
It's not a suggestion.
it's do it right now, because that means shit's going colossally sideways, or you're about to get hurt, or somebody else is. And I will talk about it at the kitchen table all you want afterwards, and I'll explain everything that I saw and the reason why I did what I did. I said, but this is not a democracy, and it can't be.
Because if something goes wrong, it's not all equally our ass also.
Yeah, well, and we all have to live with it.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, some of us might live with it and some of us might not.
I mean, and, the most...
And even if I gave you an order on a call and I was wrong and you saw something totally different,
I want to know.
Now, yeah, I want to know too. So now just tell me what you saw, because I didn't see it. And like, okay, I see what you were seeing and why you thought what you thought. And this is what I saw. And now we can come together and like, okay, so next time we're in a similar situation, we both are going to see a little differently and we're going to be better. Education.
I was about to say, does that back to education or training? Which one?
To me, you can do those. You can use them interchangeably. A lot of times, not all the time, but there's a lot of times, because your education is going to lead to training, and your training is going to lead to education.
I would agree with that. Absolutely. I would say education and training. Like, education is informing me of something. Training is like, show me how to fucking do it.
Yeah, and when you do them, it's a combination. It's great to know how to do something, but you need to know why, and then you need to know why to do something, but you got to know how to do it at the same time. So it's a huge combination where, for me, it's education and experience come together, and that's how we're going to get better as a department. We can't just lean on one and be like, oh, this is the standard. Like, no.
We're a training department. No, we're an education department.
No, you can't do one or the other. You have to do both.
Yeah.
And you have to figure out how to make them come together. And this goes right back into the mental health piece, because we got to teach people, so we got to educate them, and then train, and then go into the training piece to make this work and actually promote it and be better overall, so we don't have the issues that we've had.
But what's required is education, not training, which leads to departments who have like so many like hours of training, but it's all fucking pencil whipped.
Yeah, or it's all what is it, the firehouse, or all the certain state certifications and all that. They're great. They give you a base. Like, okay, this is kind of what we're looking at. This might be our state standard. This might be a national standard. So how do we improve upon it? Not change it, improve upon it.
Improve upon it. And I see an absolute place for online training. I think it's great in its place. But as I'm sure all three of us have learned at this point, 80% of adults are hands-on learners.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a hands-on job. So how about we do some
Hands-on training.
Education and training?
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Be careful, this is a rabbit hole I can go down, and it won't be about mental health anymore. It'll be about training.
I will tell you, like, leave because I was in the Air Force for 6 years. I went from firefighter to driver to captain to station captain of a station of like 19 firefighters in 6 years, and then I got out, started all over at the bottom. While I was in the Air Force, I was so fucking tired of education and training. So tired. Never in my life when I got out did I think, man, I miss actually having good classes and some good training. Like, I never thought I would miss it. And then I got out, I'm like, okay, cool. This is a great class. I'm glad we all signed that we signed in, and like half the people like left on their phones, and
or that I had to go poop.
yeah,
That pisses me off. I'm like I know we all gotta go doo doo.
if it's a rush to go,
Come on,
it's a rush coming out.
yeah. But 30 minutes.
Well, the unfortunate fact is that's the culture of most municipal fire departments.
Yeah.
Is, well, we're busy enough. We don't really need to do that. Or we're just doing this because we have to. You know, it's held together with baling wire and duct tape.
And it's filled with people who doesn't matter what you give us, we're going to get the job done, no matter what it costs us.
Yeah.
And you can do that for a little while and not have much of a cost. But if that's like your MO, the entire way like the entire department operates, is like, you'll figure it out. We could get you this, but you know, it's kind of expensive. I know it might save your back, which might ruin your career, but we'll figure it out. And we're going to roll a dice on us that you're also not going to report it because it's just a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
I always forget what the NASA engineer astronaut called it, deviation of normalcy.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, just get. So once I started saying it, it came right back to me.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, though, is because you can go to any fire department across the country and you can see, okay, they have SOPs written out the yin yang of these are our standard operating procedures. These are our general administrative guidelines. These are, we have all of these rules. And typically we have rules and procedures because somebody fucked up and somebody died.
Oh, yeah.
That's how we get rules and procedures in the fire service, if you didn't know that. So the more you know, now you do. But we have all of these. How many do we really follow? How many are enforced? It's like...
And how do you enforce one if you're not going to enforce all of them?
Exactly. And how do you have this one that completely contradicts this one? And when you bring it up, they're like, yeah.
Life.
This sounds really familiar.
Yeah.
Now, being an Air Force firefighter, when I got out, all my friends I was a firefighter with in different places while I was in the Air Force, most of them got out and got on civilian departments. A lot of them are still DOD. But I've got friends on departments like all over the country. It's the exact same shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like call volume going up, no one wanting to do the job, administration's not really acknowledging that problems exist that exist. Just shit not getting done the way it's supposed to, and we're just getting by.
No, what happens when you rock the boat?
You get shoved overboard.
And you're not wrong, man.
I mean, that's it. It's like, let's see if you can fucking swim. Go.
Yeah. Remember the movie Speed, right?
Yeah.
With Keanu Reeves.
Uh-huh.
And the lady, they're told not to get off the bus. Don't rock the boat.
Yeah.
Don't get off the bus. And what does she try and do? She's standing in the stairwell trying to get off the bus.
Mm-hmm.
And old Dennis Hopper's like, oh, fuck you. Beep.
Yep.
And boom. And then she's under the bus. That's kind of what it feels like a lot of times when you try and make positive changes. Because you're seen as that, you're almost seen as a leper.
Oh, absolutely.
And you get treated as such. We're like, no, we're not doing that. That's wrong. I'm like, no, it's not, man. We got to make changes.
And no matter what, there's always someone that's like, well, you haven't been doing this long enough to suggest a change.
I fucking hate that shit.
You don't have enough years at blah, blah, blah to say that we should do things differently. Like, what the fuck do you know?
So here's a
like,
question.
well, I've actually been educated and trained. And
Yeah. Well, how much time do I need before I can have
that's
an
what
opinion?
I was about to ask.
well, that always changes. It's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always one more year than you have.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like, oh, we can talk about it whenever you hit this many years. It's like, all right, I've hit this many years. I mean, well, I have this many more years too. So let's wait a little bit longer still.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I don't disagree. I think anyone in any job has a different perspective. Like everyone has different perspectives on how they see things, how they input information, what they see, what they focus on. So like with my crews that I've worked with, it's always been like, hey, this is what I've got. What do you see? And if we have time, we can have a conversation about it in or out. Like this is what I see. What do you see? And it never fails. Like if you ask 4 people in a fire truck what they see, you're gonna have 4 different fucking answers, and they're all valid.
Yeah.
You can use input from all of them to move forward if you choose to.
I agree, but also disagree because it depends on the 4 individuals in that fire truck.
They're valid observances of what's going on.
Maybe.
It might be an invalid focus. It's like, well, I see the homeless guy that's like 300 feet away from that burned down the building that's burning down. It's like, all right, good information. We're fucking going this way. Follow me.
Wait, so now here's questions. That guy that's 300 feet away, was he in that building and he just ran away?
Or is he going to that building to find the rest of his friends because that's
Or
boarded up?
is he doing that? I mean,
And it's supposed
so
to be
it's still,
empty,
Was
but
he
it's
carrying a
not.
gas can?
there's still valid information there, but how far do we want to dig into it?
Exactly. It's something like, all right, cool. I'll put that back here.
Yep.
And if I need that later on, I'd be like, oh yeah, there was a guy that was right over there.
Yeah.
But usually let's focus over here.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean by it's all valid observances, not necessarily focuses.
Yeah. I agree.
You're like, I agree. Kind of.
Maybe.
It's like there's no stupid questions thing. It's like, yeah,
There are some.
there are. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to have stupid questions.
Yes, it is. Because you're never going to get answers if you don't ask questions. And by you asking me the questions that you're asking, that gives me insight into just how much I need to teach you.
Yeah. Because I the one thing I would tell any troops I had whenever I was like a supervisor in the Air Force or when I became at the proper time on the fire department to have an opinion. I don't remember what year that was because it changed all the time. But I would tell like brand new people to the job, like there's 3 things that get you really far, I think, in this career and honestly in life, as no one to say I fucked up, no one to say I don't know, and no one to say I need help. That's kind of controversial in the fire service. I fucked up. I don't know. That's the big one.
Yep.
I need help's easy after the other 2.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and maybe it's just some of the captains that I worked for in the past. They were always pretty good about like, just tell me you don't know. Because I would rather you tell me you don't know than you go, yeah, I got it. And then you don't got it. And then we look like idiots.
yeah,
So just tell me you don't know so we could fix it,
I've had,
But it's still that ego thing of, well, no, I don't want to fucking admit that I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
that's being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Shit's scary. I've had captains on both sides of that spectrum. Ones that were like, I'd rather you tell me you don't know. And I've had captains that also wouldn't admit that they didn't know. So if you answered a question wrong, they would jump down your ass and say, yeah, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
I've had that captain too.
Yeah. It's like, well, cool. I'm not going to tell you I don't know anymore. You just showed me that this isn't a cool place to do that. Thanks.
Yeah. So what's your plan now?
Gesundheit.
No, I got something stuck in my.
You coughing still?
Still coughing.
Oh, shit.
I got the vid.
No.
Whatever.
Okay.
Not, had it enough times now. Whatever.
I figure it's going to come out in like 10 years that we've all been mutated by it, and X-Men will be a reality.
What was it? 3 months after I had it live. Well, 3 months after I had it the second time, I all of a sudden had a dramatic increase in blood pressure, and now I'm on blood pressure medication.
It's crazy that after I got it, my blood pressure went up too.
About 3 months.
Yeah.
Told my doc, I'm like, I don't know what I can change, working out more, changing my diet. He's like, you've already been working on trying to keep that lower anyway because you were borderline. He's like, there's nothing we can do at this point. There's no supplement you can take that's going to lower it to where it needs to be. Here's medication, Billy. You're getting old. Fucking deal with it. No, he was like,
Wow.
he's honestly, this is probably post. My doctor at the time was also a guy I went to junior high with. But that he was just like, this is probably just a post-COVID thing. He's like, he's like, the one thing I'm looking forward to after this is seeing all the data that comes out like 10 years from now. Like, what the fuck did we learn from this?
I want to see how much the pharmaceutical companies are going to make 10 years from now.
They're not going to really tell you.
Yeah. We won't know that for 30 years. So anyway, what's your plan? What are you going to do?
My plan moving forward. get my shit squared away with the VA. My short-term plan right now, which is turning into a long-term plan, is to try to. This is gonna sound weird to both of you guys. Try to have like a normal circadian rhythm, and like at nighttime, lay down at a decent hour and fall asleep, and then wait until the morning to wake up.
It's amazing.
I'm trying to do it. I'm still failing. Like,
So I can tell you, I was off for 14 months on an injury. I had both my hips worked on.
ooh,
Yeah, it sucked. But being I went to a 40-hour schedule. I took a 40-hour job while I was on modified, and it took me 2.5, 3 months, and I went into a normal sleep rhythm, and we had normal bedtime. Now, when I had surgeries, it fucked it up because I was stuck in bed for almost 3 weeks. I couldn't put any weight on my leg, and
on meds.
And I didn't take meds that long. I hate pain meds.
Oh shit.
But the sleep, like once I was able to really get into that sleeping mode, oh my God, I felt great. I was able to do more. I didn't nap during the day. So much energy. I was in a better mood, and my wife noticed the change. So once you hit that, oh my God, it just takes. You just gotta be patient. You can't force it. That's the problem.
That sounds like a good idea. Yeah, I'm getting more sleep now than I used to, but it's still broken, and it's like my circadian rhythm has shifted later because I'm so used to like 1 out of 3 days, at least 1 out of 3 days, being at a fucking busy station, running my ass off most of the night, maybe getting 3 hours of broken sleep at the station, and then having 2 days off to recoup. And back to your point about the 24/72, like I think the data shows that for every hour of every lost hour of sleep, you need 1 day to recover from that.
Yeah.
And like with that, it's like, okay, 24/72, that's not enough.
Yeah.
But it's a start. Possibly. I mean, it's not anywhere feasible right now.
Oh, yeah. It is totally.
It's an awesome concept. It's cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's probably a step in the right direction of what needs to happen. But like, I just don't see how because these jobs are 24 hours, like, I don't see how you're ever going to get enough personnel, especially for a large department. Can you imagine FDNY running a schedule like that?
No. How many thousands of people would they need?
They would probably need, I don't know, 15,000?
Don't they run 12-hour shifts now?
I think they have a weird shift schedule where some are on 8s and some are on 12s, and like I'm not exactly.
I don't know.
Sure.
That's why I'm asking. I don't know their schedules.
They have multiple schedules going on at one. It's if you're on the bus, it's one thing. If you're on any fire apparatus, it's completely separate. I've got a Air Force buddy of mine who's actually on FDNY. And he got on by getting on the ambulance, but they eventually hired enough people to where he got off the ambulance and doesn't work the bus anymore.
Yeah.
Which is weird in concept because you can't keep people long enough to even get off the bus.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, speaking of that, if you guys haven't watched Asphalt City, don't.
I haven't.
I don't even know what that is.
So it's God, I can't even remember what the kid's name is. But Sean Penn is in it. They're the paramedics for FDNY on the ambulance, and it's all about that. And it's a fucked up movie, and it is very, like, we watched it at the station the other night, and every one of us is sitting there going, "This is really fucking dark." Like, it really dives down a deep rabbit hole of PTSD and like what the job can do to you, especially from the ambulance side, because it showed like a bunch of bad calls that they ran. And I mean, like, this kid had like a week on the job, and he's running, 10 years worth of shit calls in a week, which, I mean, I would assume in New York, that's
kind of standard,
depending
on where you're at.
Yeah.
What was the Nick Cage movie where he was a medic?
Bringing Out the Dead.
Bringing Out the Dead.
Yeah.
And how long was that? What, 30, 40 years ago at this point? 30 years ago at this point?
Probably. Shit. Yeah, 30 years ago.
And they were talking about PTSD and mental health then.
Yeah.
And here we are.
It's weird.
Yeah. It's, dude, I'm telling you, I think this shit has been talked about and talked about and talked about for the longest time, but that's all that's been done. There's been very little actual action done. It's like we're going to talk about it, and then
shit.
we're going to take. What was that?
Camera was on me, still not on you.
Oh,
I like getting
it's
he got
reaction
fine.
distracted.
Yeah,
Squirrel.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's
I like
fine.
I like reaction shots. from
We're
the
gonna
guests.
do. It'll be like people will be watching this, and it'll just the camera will be on you. You won't be saying a word, but it'll be me talking, and then it'll switch to me, and then you'll talk.
That's perfect.
Yeah, it'll be.
Totally new format.
I mean,
fucking-
everybody wants reactions now. That's what they're looking for. So that's what I give them. Set it up for TikTok.
Oh my god, fucking TikTok.
I don't mind it.
There's a lot of mental health stuff on there.
Yeah.
Here's the thing with TikTok. I think it's part of the whole social media thing of that instant gratification, which is a very big problem.
It's a fucking dopamine hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, I think it's a huge problem. It's part of leading to a big factor in the mental health issues that we see with young people. Like you can see, because Joe Rogan was talking about it the other day with Tulsi Gabbard on his podcast. And like, I guess there's data of when social media kind of exploded, like whatever year that was. And the amount of kids with body dysmorphia and all of these other, like just shot through the fucking roof within a year.
Doesn't he use social media to make a ton of money, like $100+ million?
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Sorry, man.
It's the double-edged sword, though. It is one of those things where social media can be super great, but it can be also fucking terrible, especially for kids. Like because young girls, like they see that stuff on Instagram and TikTok of these people with these basically just unattainable physiques.
Oh, you know what I've been noticing here?
That's the same. This is the magazines that we grow up with, though. I mean, so I think
but it wasn't right there on your phone that you could stare at for 18 hours a day.
No, I had a magazine in my hand I could stare at for 18 hours a day with Kathy Ireland holding a Pepsi.
Kathy Ireland, mine. No, I'm not going to get into that. So there's two sides of that. You could say that social media created this, or
I'm not saying created it. I'm
it's
saying exacerbated.
has made it worse.
Yes.
Or social media has let people know that they're not alone, and there's a fucking name for what they have.
I mean, yes.
It could be both.
It could be.
Could be
I mean,
anywhere
this
in
is
between.
going on social media, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's social media itself that is the issue. I think it's how we use social media.
Oh, absolutely.
Have you
That
seen,
is
have
the
you seen the
issue.
new stuff coming out? Like on Facebook, I've seen it a lot. They'll have a picture of a celebrity, and then another one that looks just like them, but it's a little different, and it's fucking AI.
Yeah.
And they're flawless, and like you'll never obtain flawless ever.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's the image that a lot of these social media influencers sell is flawless.
There are some that are getting better about I've seen a bunch. They will like post a picture side by side of them posed, and then them like 10 seconds later unposed.
Yeah. Or you'll see how they got that picture, like on their Instagram, like everything looks perfect.
Yeah.
And then you see how all the manipulation they had to do, like in a video, and how many pictures it took to get that one.
That's getting better, bringing more awareness to the fact that
Yeah.
it is exactly that. It's unattainable. It's not realistic.
Yeah.
It's not. You can't. How
about all the editing it goes into these pictures? Because it's everything's airbrushed, all the imperfections are fixed, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's a lot to get that picture. But I'm glad they're starting to say, "Hey, this isn't real."
Yeah. This isn't real. This isn't real. It's not. Yeah. It just goes back to comparing and how bad we are at that with everything, good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like we find a way to compare like my worst moment of my life to their best moment. So like I look like shit in this picture, but they look fantastic. So I'm a piece of shit. Also, I don't have it as bad as that person. So how I feel doesn't matter. So we're in that fun little juxtaposition of those two things.
Yeah, it's not a competition to who's had a better life or who's had a harder life.
Yeah.
It's your experiences and how you're going to overcome whether it's a good experience or a bad one. Because even if you have great experiences, it can still lead down a dark path.
Oh yeah.
And how do you overcome that? that's where we're getting it. That's what it's getting better, and people are talking about it, but we're not there as a society.
So if we don't talk about it, so social media, I find book recommendations on there sometimes from people, or I'll find someone like talking about an excerpt, and I'll find a podcast through social media. Like I read, this is a fun part. I read Jason Gander's, oh God, I just completely Invisible Storm, where he gives a detailed account of his PTSD and his experience. In reading that book, like I had been on my therapeutic journey for a while. I had been to see therapists. I'd been through programs. It was only in reading that book that I found on social media that I was like, at reading like him go through things. I'm like, oh yeah, I've that's very similar to how I experience things. Or this is, I've got that. Oh fuck, yeah. I've also got that. I'm like, by the end of the book, I'm like, I might have PTSD. I mean, the years of fucking therapy and programs that I've been to didn't tell me that. And I didn't admit that to myself until I read a fucking book, and I was like, okay, yeah, maybe I've got it. Because before I'm like, maybe I've got it. And like reading now, I'm like, yeah,
But see, that's the thing. When you read the book, you're not reading it out loud, right? You're reading it with your inner voice.
Yeah.
And your inner voice is saying, his checking the boxes and make you confront what you're going through and actually see it for what it is.
So that's one of the benefits of reading is when you read something, you do it with an inner monologue and you apply it to yourself. When you hear something, you apply it to others.
Yep, 100%.
One of the other weird things I read in another fucking book somewhere, but I was like, oh yeah, I need to read more. Cool. Yeah. I'll do that.
Reading is fundamental.
It's helpful. When you hire a bunch of Neanderthals, though, I mean, how the fuck, like, you have to teach us how to read first?
Yeah.
I mean, because to most people, we're just a bunch of dumb firemen.
Yep.
Yeah, we hit stuff and we play with water.
Put the wet stuff on the red stuff.
They're also not wrong in that,
Yeah.
but we're not just fucking dumb firemen.
Yeah. No, there's actually strategery that goes into doing our job.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Educated firefighters are one of the things I've always.
They're dangerous.
They're dangerous. Externally educated firefighters are dangerous. They're also the ones that get thrown off the boat because they just rocked it.
You see, you should have had the camera on yourself for that one for your reaction.
No, it was your reactions.
I don't think
It was our reaction to his reaction.
our reaction to his
Yeah.
reaction.
Yeah, so we're gonna have like a multi.
Yeah. Okay,
Screen.
I get it.
It's,
yeah.
it's a triple reaction video.
I can't even with you sometimes.
But you chose him,
Yes.
or did he choose you?
No, no, he chose me.
You know what? I don't think there was any choosing going along. We sat like right next to each other in the
I think
academy.
you sat right in front of me.
I sat right in front of him in the academy, so he just latched on like a little parasite.
Whatever.
And
he needed help studying. I can't read the book.
couldn't get rid of him.
Like I said, you got to teach us how to read.
That's right. I'd help with his EMT license, and it was bad. I mean, he passed out seeing blood.
It wasn't the blood.
Oh, was it the foot?
It was the it was the foot, the gunshot wound. Yeah.
Separate?
No, so okay. I'll tell on myself. This is a funny story. So we were in the academy and we had to do like ambulance ride-alongs and an emergency room, like basically ride-along or
Yeah.
whatever, right? So like my first rotation was going down the emergency room. So we go down, standing in there. This doctor's like, "Hey, you want to come see this?" And I'm like, "Sure." So this is like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. Go into this room. This dude shot in the foot with a .22. Nothing big. I grew up hunting.
Yeah.
I like seen all kinds of like gunshot wounds and all that stuff on animals, obviously never on a person. So I'm sitting there and he takes this guy's shoe and sock off or whatever, and he's cleaning everything up, and I'm leaning up against this cabinet. And the next thing I know, the door is hitting me as they're forcing their way in because I smooth passed the fuck out and hit my head on the counter, floor, or something. I don't know, but I fucking cut my eye. I had to
Pretty
have
sure it was the
stitches.
bed rail.
Yeah. Had to have stitches.
Oh man.
Yeah. So they took me and sat me in the cafeteria for the rest of the day. Didn't let me like really go back in the ER. So I come back because this is on like Saturday morning. So then we're off on Sunday, back to the academy on Monday morning, and I walk in with a fucking goose egg and stitches. And
Oh man.
my classmates that were with me
Had already told the story.
Oh yeah, that was
Weird.
it was already known. So yeah, it happened.
That does happen.
Yeah, it has not happened since then. I mean, I've had my arm up to my fucking elbow inside somebody's thigh, pinching off their femoral artery to keep them from bleeding out. So, I mean, it was
It was situational.
yeah.
You shouldn't have been there.
I
That's it.
should not have been there. Honestly, I don't know. It was a learning experience. So
That's one of the things I've never in my 20 year, and I take it back, not 20 year, 19 year and 11 month experience. My career as a firefighter. I was a month shy of 20 years. I never had anything on the job that made me queasy, like made me like just feel like lightheaded, whatever, like from like seeing it.
yeah.
Not once.
What about smelling it?
I'm actually pretty good with smells too. Like the one thing that always got to me was lower intestine bleeds. Lower
GI bleeds?
Oh yeah.
GI bleeds are like
Oh,
the one
yeah.
thing I was like,
He
like you're
puked.
outside the
I
front
puked.
door, you're
He
like,
puked on a call.
oh,
He puked on
So
a call.
we
He
did-
puked on a call. For those of you that can't see me, I'm pointing at Chris. He puked on a call.
100%. But so we had just had lunch. We'd made the big sandwich, and then run a hemorrhage. We get there, and before we hit the door, you could smell it. So we go in, and the guy's like, "I've been here for multiple days in bed, and just."
Yeah.
And and it was hard. Like, okay, you're doing the controlling your breathing. I start sweating a little bit. I'm like, let's get through this. The ambulance shows up. Medic walks in.
awesome.
He goes, "Oh yeah, it's GI bleed." Grabs the blankets and throws them in the air, and that all of it just comes up and you're like, I'm like, so there's a sliding glass door in the room.
yeah.
And I can't get it open. Like I'm pulling, I'm tugging. The thing's coming off the track. Our driver goes over, flips the unlock button because I'm not
Oh
thinking.
yeah, you're panicking.
I'm
like,
not
you're trying to get
thinking.
the fuck out. Yeah.
and he opens the door. I make it 2 steps out and all over the place. So I walk around. It's like a fourplex. Yeah. So I walk all the way around, and our captain's in the front door. And he looks at me. He goes, "Where the fuck you come from?" And I'm a little pale. And I was like,
He was a shade of green that
Oh,
does
my
not exist in nature.
I was like, I threw up. I threw up a lot.
Oh man.
We could not have those sandwiches for over a year. Just the mention of them,
Yeah. Oh,
he would get
I would
nauseous.
dry heave.
And then we
man.
had to even top it off a little bit better. He would get detailed to a different station, and they like to kind of fuck with him about it.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the firefighters would take a big scoop of Nutella and just start eating it right in front of him.
Oh man. Oh, that's.
I mean, and when they would do that, I could smell it. Like even today, like GI bleeds are tough for me because I mean, the smell is horrific.
Well, the smell really sticks with you. Like if you've smelled that,
Yeah.
you know that smell.
But you know it instantly. Like there's certain smells that we all know instantly.
Yeah.
PCP, crack,
Yeah. Well, and for me,
GI bleeds.
for me, I don't get, like, that was the one time for me, except for I can remember one other call that we ran, the guy who dislocated his ankle, who was working on his house right down the street from the station.
Oh no, he snapped,
Dude.
his tip fib, and it was the other way.
Yeah. And so, but he was like putting an addition on his house, like a garage. So he had like the walls and the foundation where you had to walk around up on this berm and then like across a 2x4 to get on there. Well, and he had plywood, but it wasn't nailed down. And he stepped on one that wasn't nailed down, and it. Well, then we had to step on all that shit to go get him.
Yeah.
And you could see it. I mean, from 5 feet away. And I was like, oh, I'm not touching that. That no, I'll pick him up. That's fine. I'm not touching the leg.
So I've had on duty. I've had one that sticks out of my head, and it was someone who was maybe high and drunk, who broke they broke right about here.
Oh,
And like when we're walking up, we're like, "Hey, what's going on?" And he's like, "I don't know," and starts like doing this with his arm, and like there's an extra hinge, and I'm just like, "Stop!" I felt everything, all my muscles like tighten in my jaw, like, "Oh God, no!" And like I felt like a little bit of like it made me just nauseous enough that my mouth started to water.
You ever had the one where it broke something and they go, "Hey, is this supposed to do this?" And they start moving like their arm and it's clicking.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, the clicking gets me. But like the one that really got me, that made me feel like I was actually gonna fucking pass out. My stepdad was working at the Montessori school that he was at, and he was using the paper cutter that he'd been using for like 30 plus years. Oh. Stuck his finger a little bit too far, and his pointy finger became a little more pointy. I went to change his dressing, like at the prescribed time that the hospital recommended, and as I'm changing his dressing, like it's a good chunk of his finger, like is gone. So like, and this is pretty fresh. So like I'm changing his dressing and blood's pouring out of someone I love. And I was rushing really, really fast to finish. Because as I'm doing it, I'm standing there, I was like, oh, this feels weird. What's this feeling? And I was like, and I was in the bathroom, I looked in the mirror, I'm like, oh shit, I'm losing color. I gotta hurry the fuck up or I'm gonna pass out while I'm trying to dress. I'm like, then he's gonna keep fucking bleeding after I'm passed out. I gotta make sure I do this. And I was like, I just hurry up and finish. And as soon as I was done, like I was like ghost white. And I just like backed up to a wall. And I was like, if I back up to a wall, I'm fine. Hit the wall, slid down very slowly, hit the ground. I'm like, he's like, you okay? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm good. I need water, nicotine, caffeine. I don't fucking know.
oh,
that's the kitchen sink right there.
That was like the closest I'm come from passing out from seeing something like that. Every other time it's like, oh, that's gross. Oh, ooh, oh, that's my internal thing.
yeah.
Luckily, the military bearing thing really comes into handy.
See, for me, it's the vomit and the puke, man.
So you're gonna like this. I had this is the one that shocked me. I thought this would get me. I had a patient who had taken a bunch of pills and then vomited a bunch of times, and they were unconscious, and we were putting him on the cot, bringing him out. And like I had a general rule of oxygen doesn't typically hurt anybody, and there's a chance that like something's gonna come out of them. I'd rather go into an oxygen mask and down. I can fix anything else.
Yeah.
Like if they aspirate a little bit on it, we can fucking fix that. Whatever. I can't fix them vomiting on the entire crew because I don't know who I'm going to lose at that point. Like
Me.
there you go. See, I now know that. It's like so I would do that, and the medic shows up, and they're like, "Oh, we don't need oxygen." Rips it off. I'm like, I did. Oh, fuck it. It's not worth arguing about it. Carrying him out, and as we're carrying him out, all of a sudden, and a little chunk of pill flies out of the patient's mouth and lands right about here.
Oh,
About this far from my lips. And I was just like, okay, I'm fine. Like I thought if it would have landed a little bit further, it may have gotten me. But I was shocked. I was like, okay, cool. I'm surprisingly good with that. If that was intentional, I'm not good with that. But
yeah. I had to leave a scene one time. This independent living facility that we ran a lot. We
not so independent living facilities.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I've been to those.
We show up on I think it was a Monday morning, and this dude had been laying on his floor since Friday afternoon. So you know what happens over 3 days. You're just shitting and pissing everywhere. And so We very specifically tell him, do not reach out, do not grab anything. So what does he do? He reaches out and grabs me by the front collar of my t-shirt to help himself pull up for some reason.
That is the strangest place to.
Yes.
There's only one more odd place to grab, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Which I've had that before too.
Yeah.
That was,
yeah.
but anyway, that was just a hilarious call. But yeah, I grabbed his hand very quickly to keep him from moving it because it was covered, and got it off of me. And my captain looked at me and he said, "You need to go to the rig right now." And I said, "I agree.
Like, yes, Cap, we're in agreement.
Yes, we are in agreement that you guys are going to pick this guy up, put him on the cot. I am no longer needed in this scenario."
I'm actually detrimental in this scenario. I should get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
That's when I fire up the old pump and grab the booster and
Yep.
I take a shower right there.
Yeah.
Like, this shirt's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the other one was this drunk lady at Ruby Tuesdays walked into the kitchen and,
Who gets drunk at a Ruby Tuesdays?
out by the airport, man, and walked into the kitchen. You know, those kitchens are just, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
their floor is slick as shit.
I worked in it at one point in
Yeah.
time. Not there, but a restaurant.
Yeah. Well, she fell down and bonked her head. So we show up, and as we're putting her on the backboard, because this was fucking 18 years ago or whatever, her hands weren't secured. So she reached up and grabbed the closest thing to her. And I was stunned
Yeah.
and shocked
I've
And had some enjoyment.
and asked the people standing next to me on my crew, help me out. And all they could do was laugh.
Oh, yeah.
They were not helpful. And I was literally holding her up to keep her from, because we were doing the buckles.
Mhm.
So if I'd have dropped her, I'd have dropped her head right on the fucking
Oh, yeah.
concrete
Yeah.
again.
I've had that happen to me a few times.
Yeah.
I think once by a patient, two or a second time was by an ambulance provider who was completely on accident. She just reached back to grab something, and I was right there. And I her hand didn't move. Her face turns around. She looks at me, and I'm just like, I looked down at her. I was like, she's like, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I'm like, "It's cool. Let's just forget it happened.
Yeah.
Fucking move on. Let's keep going."
I'll get your number later.
Or she's like, "You're not getting my number."
Oh, shit.
To answer your question you asked like an hour ago, my plans from here.
Yes.
I do have more other than just trying to fucking sleep.
Yeah. I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am planning on going back to school, which I never thought I would be doing. Getting my bachelor's and my master's, most likely in psychology, and trying to become a therapist. Because I started this career because I wanted to help people, and this is a way, not this career, my previous career as a firefighter, to help people, and this is a way I think I can continue doing it. And this is not a path I would have ever guessed I would even consider.
Yeah.
At one point.
Well, that's awesome, dude. I mean, it's needed.
Wow.
And you two fuckers making fun of me for my phone earlier. At least mine was on silent.
Mine's
He's
on
got a
silent.
good point.
Mine's on silent.
Mine's on silent too now.
You know, whenever you're doing your therapy sessions, you need to make sure that you turn your phone on silent as well.
No, that's just my shit's important. No, I'm just kidding.
He's an important guy.
I have so many meetings to go.
Yeah.
No, I try to keep my phone as handy as I can. I've got two sons.
Oh, yeah.
We've got
Yeah.
two sons, a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, and my 6-year-old's autistic.
Yeah.
And he's now being bused to a school in Kansas City, so he's closer to me throughout the day. So I keep my phone handy if they need anything
Well,
to help mitigate any meltdowns he has, or if he needs clothes or whatever the fuck it is. Doesn't matter.
that is a very good reason.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I would too.
Well, Billy, I hate to cut it short because I feel like we could just keep going.
I think we probably could.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to come back.
I'm game.
In short order.
Yeah.
So we'll call this part 1, and part 2 will be
At a later date.
at a later date.
Yeah.
So,
Gotta wear pajamas next time. We'll do like a sleepover thing.
I'm good with that. I got pajama pants.
closing thoughts
For
this episode.
for me, for you, for him.
Yeah. Anybody who wants to jump in, he's terrible about it. You go first.
Okay, so I'll be more terrible than you look great.
Good luck.
Clothing thoughts. Clothing
Thoughts.
Clothing
Yes.
thoughts.
I mean,
see?
how do you feel about parachute pants?
I miss 'em.
Are they coming back?
I think I still have a pair that are all Chiefs colored, like or tiger stripe Chiefs colored, just to make it more 90s.
Are you
Are they
talking?
the
Are you talking about
Zubaz?
Zubaz?
Yeah, I still have a pair.
Yeah, I wish I still had mine. They wouldn't fit.
I have a new pair, so they do fit. Closing thoughts. Man, we got to do better. We're doing what we can. Having these conversations is important. But we need to do a lot of education and training. No, and just most importantly, if anyone feels like they need help, or might need help, or thinking that they maybe should ask the question themselves if they maybe need help, maybe they should possibly talk to somebody. Fucking talk to somebody. If the person you talk to is an asshole, talk to somebody else. Keep moving on until you find someone that's not an asshole about it. And maybe you can determine that you don't need help. And that's fucking great too. But you gotta talk to somebody. We're not meant to do this shit alone.
100%.
I know we
accurate.
all believe we can and we should. And it's bad if we don't. But we fucking can't do it alone.
What's the old saying? No man is an island. I mean, they're old sayings for a reason, people.
Some of them, yes. Not all of them.
Not all
Some
of them.
are just fucking dumb.
Okay, I won't debate that with you. There are some dumb sayings. There's also some awesome ones, mostly by Jack Handy.
Those are amazing. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. I no longer like that one because I'm about to be an old dog trying to learn a new trick. So,
Yeah. I actually, one of those popped up on Instagram yesterday or the day before. One of the Jack Handy quotes is about whenever I feel like murdering someone, I instead get a pumpkin and carve it, and then I go to their front porch and put a knife in it with a note that says "you," and then I feel better afterwards. What?
That's awesome.
Then there's the other one that I used to like is vampire children learn from an early age not to run with pencils.
that one's good.
That's
I like
clever.
that.
Chris, closing thoughts?
No. I'm gonna make him look good.
No, I just go ahead. I would love to hear your closing thoughts.
No, I'm just on the same page as you are. You guys gotta keep moving forward and
Yeah.
finding what's gonna work for you, and don't be afraid to reach out for help. It's not a pride thing. It's not. There's nothing wrong with it.
It's not weak.
It's definitely not weakness. In fact, it's like kind of comparing it to not hitting somebody when you really want to. It takes more strength than hitting that person and who probably deserves it. Same thing if you're reaching out. That's not weakness. It's 100% strength and showing that vulnerability and getting right, because you have way more to lose than what you realize if you keep going down the same path.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Well,
I thought he said he was bad at this.
Jeremy likes to think I'm bad at it. He has to make himself feel better, so he has to downgrade me.
I mean,
Because he started it. He's like, it's my podcast. It's mine.
well, if you go by virtue of how much money has been spent, then yes,
I give you
considering
my
that
time for free, and my time is very valuable.
your time is not worth more than my time. In
Way
fact,
worth-
my
way
time is
more-
actually worth more
way
than
more
your
than
time.
No, my time is
If we
way
go
more
by
valuable.
how much we make it work.
We make the same amount of money, you idiot.
No, because I'm on a step higher than you.
No, you're not.
I should be.
But you're not.
And this is why we talk about wages now between
Yeah.
each other to make sure we're getting paid properly.
Exactly.
And I should make more than him anyway, because I'm a medic.
You're not on an ALS unit.
Doesn't matter. Still a
Give
medic.
it up.
Still a medic.
Really? Do you? Anyway.
I agree with him. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not a
Boom.
medic.
My man.
If you're a medic, there's not a time where they're gonna be like, hey, you know what? I know you're not getting paid as a medic today, and there's a chance that the city went to shit. If the city goes to shit, we're not going to ask you to be a medic because we're not paying you today. No, it's going to be you're a fucking medic.
Yeah.
I don't care.
And I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
And I think if you're a medic, you should just be on the ambulance for the rest of your career. You should never be allowed on a fire truck again because you're too highly skilled. You're wasted on the fire truck.
See, and I think all ambulances should be staffed by EMTs because 90% of our calls are BLS anyway. And then when you have an ALS call, the bumper goes anyway.
I mean,
Problem solved. I just solved our ambulance problem.
except then you're taking 2 rigs out of service instead of just one for
And-
a call.
and
We're
when you
going
run
to
to
anyway
It's-
because half of our patients are bariatric, so fuck it.
Yeah.
And when you run a critical call, what do? You send firefighters to the hospital, so you're out of service anyway.
I mean, only if
Your
it's
logic is Swiss cheese. Shut up.
Anyway, Billy, thanks for coming back. I
My
appreciate it. So, yeah, you'll have to come back and we will continue this conversation. Look, if you're struggling, reach out. There are resources out there. I know they can be hard to find sometimes, but they are out there. If you don't know what resources are out there, ask somebody. If you know somebody that's struggling, reach out. Let them know you care. Check on your people. Check on your friends. So thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.